This is Holly with Freedom's Fire, and I would like to take a few moments here to talk about something that's kind of a sensitive issue. Um, as many of you have known, I have lost three grandchildren, two of them within the last 3 years, and we're going quite the journey with my husband. And this is a subject that I think that, well, every last one of us has been touched by. I like the way my daughter sent out a post not too long ago that says, I now know the difference between your death and living without you. For a death is a singular incident, but your absence, seems to go on forever. And this is something that I'd like to throw a little bit of just some personal experience, because we all know that none of us have all the answers, and um, nobody knows really what to say at these times. Um, but I can share with you a couple things that have comforted me along this journey. And hopefully, I'm sure I've been asked to do this for a while, but I kept putting it off because I didn't feel like I was qualified. But I don't think any of us ever is. So I will share with you what I have, and I'm sure that if we were to sit down and have a cup of coffee, you could share with me, and we could grow together and learn and glean from each other. But instead, this is the best that I can do for the moment. Um, our first little girl, Angelina, was born back in 2004, and when she was born, they gave her absolutely no chance at all to live. Um, they said that she was deaf and blind, and her brain had not developed, and so for, oh gosh, I would say at least 48 hours every hour, people would come out and tell us, oh, she's not going to make it to the end of the day, she's not going to make it out the hour. And but she did, and she ended up in the NICU. And then the deaf baby decided that she didn't like the music that they had on the evening shift as much as the day shift, or the other way around. But one of them played classical music, and that seemed to be more of her vibe. And I'm not going to give you all the details, but we lived many years, touch and go, frequent flyer miles at the Ronald McDonald house that they let us stay there for a while, which God bless those people. They are so kind and so generous, and it's just a literal godsend. And then we live with people constantly telling us, well, she'll never live, she'll never make it. Um, we call them the naysayers. She even knew who they were when they came in the rooms, the one that always sent to tell us that she wasn't going to make it to the end of the month, and she would turn her head towards the wall till they left. Even she in her infant stages, she could feel the doubt there, the sadness. But she did. She stayed deaf and blind for to the end of her days, but she was probably the happiest child ever. And it was such a rare um, condition that when a few years later the kids had another little girl that had the exact same thing, it was quite the novelty. Everybody said this was the first time in history. They could tell that they would watch Lacey during her pregnancy, and they could tell that the little one wasn't um, going to develop like a normal child here, and they even kept telling us that it was probably going to be stillborn. But God, in His infinite grace and mercy, when Isabella Renee came out, the most beautiful baby girl ever, God gave us the gift of 4 precious months with her. And people from all over the world wanted to come and study these 2 little girls to see what it was. That means they were the first to have 2 of them, to find out that key, that nugget. But the parents were set on the fact that they were going to be normal children and have a normal childhood. And they did. Then, a few years later, they had a little boy. And yes, you guessed it, He was the third little one that had the same condition, except for he had an additional twist. And once again, we lived the constant bombardment of he's not going to make it, he's not going to make it. And he did. He made it till he was 9. And the teachers that came in and taught him and Angelina said that they were the happiest kids they ever had. So in this process of this journey, I would like to share with you something that's a little bit of a different perspective that I got to see as we walk through all this. First of all, Angelina kept boggling people's minds, for she was, one nurse was even cruel enough to call her a blob, but we found out she could see and she could hear, and she definitely had a taste in music. Come on, folks. Let's keep it at Tchaikovsky and little Princess Disney tunes. She loved to watch her videos. And she had I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but you won't be the first, but there are times I am positive that the child communed with the angels. She would look at the ceiling and laugh and giggle, and her eyes would light up, and for a good 20 minutes, half hour, she wasn't with us. She was in her own conversation, laughing and giggling. Unfortunately, I didn't see nor hear. I often wondered that I would pray that she would begin to walk and talk like me. But somehow or another, the way she would look at me, I am positive that she was praying, "Oh, Father, let her see what I see." I wonder now in eternity which prayer was more important, to walk and talk like we do here on earth, or to already be in touch with the heavenly angels and be able to commune with them, that we will be doing for all eternity. I wonder which one of us needed to be a little bit more in tune. Losing the little ones was never easy, and it's always a challenge. But God in His infinite mercy had ways of sending comfort. When Gage passed, he was down in the morgue of Riley Hospital. And we got to go in and we got to see him before they took him away. I leaned down to kiss him on the forehead. My son had lost his little dog just a few months beforehand. And the instant that I kissed him on the forehead, in my mind, I saw Gage running with Isabella. She wasn't a baby anymore. She was a little girl with long, flowing, reddish-brown hair. And they were holding hands running down the streets of heaven with the little dog yapping at their heels. Okay, I know what some of you are going to say. Well, you have a great imagination. Perhaps. Some of you might think I had a vision. Perhaps. All I know is I have a gift from God that I hold on to. And every time that I feel that sadness or I think of him, that picture instantly pops into my mind. And I see him happy and whole. Does it take away the ache in my heart? No. Does it ease it a little bit to see him happy and Isabella running? Yes, it does. Our little Gage was quite the rocker. He was into heavy metal music from the time he was born. We had rock lullabies, which we thought was strange. We thought with Angel's condition and her loving classical music that, he would be the same, but each one is an individual, just like all of us are. Our Father made us all unique in just the way He wanted us. So it wasn't too much longer. It was less than 2 years later, just about 10 months ago. Our precious Angelina, just shy of her 21st birthday, she also got promoted to heaven. She hadn't even been sick. And it was quite the shock. You would think, oh, well, you've been through this journey for 20 years, but and we're used to her being in the hospital off and on and for long periods of time, but she hadn't been for a while. I always called Angelina God's ballerina from the time she was born. And there was a season not too long ago. It was the time period when you just had that particular ache. The ache in your heart's always there, but sometimes you're just acutely more aware of it. And I'd laid down for a nap. It had been a kind of a rough night. And as I slept, I had the same reoccurring dream. I dreamed I was in a theater, and I'm in the second row in the front on the left-hand side, and I am watching Angelina Ballerina dance to Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. And it would just go over and over again. And once again, when I woke up, you can say I had a dream, back to my wild imagination, but I will call it my gift from God. In the process of this, in the last 7 years or so, my husband has had quite the health journey. And for the last 9 months or so, we've been on hospice at home. And my husband amazes me with just his honest way of putting things and simplicity. He was always a runner. He's run something like 15 marathons and close to 50 mini marathons. And the kids and I have, and many friends have often gone and watched him run the race and cheered him on when he got close to the finish line and had the big celebration at the end. And we were at the doctor one time, and the doctor was also giving his prognosis. And my husband says to him, he says, all my life, my family has watched me run a race. And he says, and the greatest race that you run, is the race of life. And here I am, getting close to finally getting to the finish line and crossing it and finally accomplishing all that I was supposed to and getting that well done, good and faithful servant. And so many of you want me to stop just shy of the finish line and sit down. He says, I don't understand that. Crossing the finish line and receiving the prize, isn't that the goal? It's true. The word talks about, I've run the race, I've fought a good fight. I admit that I'm not all I should be, but I bring all my energy to bear upon this one thing. I get to finish this race, accomplish all that I have for Christ. Here lately, my husband has been able to hear the singing of heaven's choir at times. And sometimes, well, I should say many times, he hears it when we go to bed at night. And then, if you wait a minute or two, he'll say, oh, here come the clouds. And he says the clouds move into the room till they cover the ceiling. And I can't see nor hear it. But I can tell that it's a gift from God to him to see and hear. When my first grandchild passed, Isabella, I'm driving home and I have my granddaughter, Kara, the 10-year-old, with me. And she's says, Nana, I've got a few questions. And I thought, oh, Jesus, I've got my own. Help me to answer these for this child. And she says, like the Bible says we're the bride of Christ, right? And I said, yes. And she says, so it's kind of like we're engaged. And I said, yeah, exactly. So when Jesus asked my sister to marry him, she said, screw it, let's elope. And I said, that's it exactly. All about perspective, looking at it through a child's eye. She later came and got me that night to go outside, and she said, that star, Nana? Stay that up there. Do you see Sissy dancing with Jesus? And I thought, I had to say to her, honey, my eyes are older than yours. I just can't see as well as you. But I trust that you get seen for both of us. So between the wisdom of a 10-year-old child, the gift of seeing my little Gage and Isabella running with little Alvin down the streets of heaven, to watching Angelina perform the Nutcracker on the stage, my husband talking about winning the race, hearing the clouds of heaven, I kind of wonder if, it talks in 1 Corinthians, Paul writes and says, oh, I'd love to tell you the meat and give you the good stuff, but you're still on the baby milk. You're still, talking about raising the dead and healing the sick. There's so much more. By chance, are those little illustrations I just gave you a glimpse of the so much more? My son is the long-term planner. They say you have short-term goals and you should have long-term goals, and my son is definitely a long-term goal person. Me, not so much. And him and Laura have such a delightful little 15, 16-month-old. His name is Evan. And Evan was very excited when he not only took his first steps, but when he got those first steps down, honey, it didn't take long before he was making tracks. He had arrived. He was proud of himself. He had done it. He had accomplished the goal. And as cute as my son was looking at him and watching him take his first steps, I think that his mind was already going, okay, now we need to save for college, and when he finishes this degree, that will open that door, and if he goes in this direction, this will open this door. That could possibly lead to this, which could lead to this kind of retirement. Yes, his mind really does think that way. And I wonder if that's kind of like how Abba sees me here on earth. Here I am, a great-grandmother, and I think, boy, I've done this and done that, and I'm finally getting there. I've learned a few things. I got a few things under my belt, and Abba says, angels, come over here. Look at her, isn't she cute? She's finally learned to walk. If she only knew, those are her first steps to all these big things I have for her in eternity that she's been in training for. But for now, she's not ready for the meat. She's still trying to learn about healing the sick and believing me for provision and taking care of her grandchildren. She's so cute, those little baby steps. But folks, there really is so much more. I know it's a different perspective on looking on death and people passing. But you know what? Someday all this is going to be over. Here on earth, we are just beginning eternity. Let's say you live to be 100. What's 100 years in comparison to eternity? It's a drop in the bucket. It's baby steps. And when I get to start the next phase of what Abba has for all of us. This girl is going to go find the theater, and they're going to be doing a performance of Tchaikovsky's The Nutcracker. And I'm going to go in, and I'm going to go down to the front to the second row. It'll be on the left-hand side if you're wanting to join me. I'll save you a seat. And maybe, just maybe, you'll do me the honor of watching Angelina perform a rendition of The Nutcracker. And I know that when she looks at me, I'm going to see it in her eyes, and she says, Nana, do you really finally see? Do you see what I was seeing? I knew you'd get it. Just took you a while to catch up. Until the next time, this is Holly with Freedom's Fire.